Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, providing exterior solutions for homes with faded, cracked, or outdated siding. Details at callmosby.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. 2 Saturdays ago, a hole opened up right underneath Interstate 44 in downtown St. Louis. It wasn't your standard pothole, something you could drive around in order to avoid a rough ride. It was a massive thing, 30 feet wide, that grabbed headlines. It has necessitated redirections in traffic on surface streets and highways. It's even been given a voice and a name on social media. But questions remain almost 2 weeks out about what caused that hole to form, how soon it will be filled and the area stabilized, and what it signals about the state of local aging infrastructure. To help us answer those questions, we welcome 2 guests. First, we have Fletcher Bone, geologist and environmental program specialist with the Missouri Geological Survey. Fletcher, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Bess McCoy. Bess is Manager of Public Affairs at Metropolitan St. Sewer District. Bess, welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
All right, let's go right to the hole. So, Bess, when you first arrived at that site, what did you see and how soon were you there?
Yeah, so we found out about it that Friday night. I think City Water were the first notified, and I think as most people know, that was the first issue noticed, was that there was a clear city water main break. But anytime a situation like this happens, we want to be coordinating as quickly as we can. I avoided the area, to be honest, for a while. We had, our teams taking a look, but our system is so deep there that it's still not safe for us to really get a good look at things. So, we were coordinating, but the priority right now and still is getting that site safe so that we can dig down and see what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Fletcher, how about you? How soon were you able to get there, and what did you see?
So I was first notified about this issue on Saturday afternoon, and so Sunday morning I headed up from Raleigh, where I'm based out of, and I got there about 10 o'clock in the morning, and of course saw a massive hole in the ground, lots of broken utility lines in that hole, and then a little bit of water still trickling out of some of those lines. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my first thing what I saw there.
And is that what you were looking for very particularly?
I'm a trained geologist, and I kept hearing everyone was talking about this, they kept calling it a sinkhole. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go up there and take a look at it, and let's just see if this is truly like a naturally occurring sinkhole. Is this maybe it's just a broken utility line, or could it be both? Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to go up there and do is just check and see if there's any evidence I could see that this does have a naturally occurring component to it or not. And then, that could hopefully help aid the engineers in their, ultimate fix of the situation.
Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to both in a second. Mm-hmm. What is it that distinguishes a sinkhole from a cave-in?
Sure. So a sinkhole is a naturally occurring phenomenon that occurs, when you have dissolution of bedrock in the subsurface that, through like rain events and things like that will wash through cracks in the ground. And, that soil will wash away or the bedrock dissolves slowly, then that falls in. Sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're slow forming sinkholes. But a cave-in or like a collapse or subsidence, that's, something typically that's reserved for something that's man-made, whether it's like a stormwater sewer that falls in, maybe an old cistern that was buried and falls in. That I like to make those distinctions because they have quite different implications on the severity of it, what could happen, and then also how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. So when you said both earlier, mm-hmm. How can it be both? And are there any, recent examples that you can point to that represents falling under both of those categories?
For sure. I believe in 2022 there was a sinkhole and a collapse over by Union Station in downtown St. Louis. And I'm trying to remember the full story here, but there was, a stormwater sewer or one of those kind of utilities that collapsed, and then they even deeper down, they found an old beer cellar, which was, originally it was a cave, so natural forming cave, but then it was dug out, and I don't know how long ago, but I think it was supposed to be part of the old Winkelmeyer brewery, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And so in that case, and also I don't know which came first, the broken utility or the cave collapsing, but one they could influence each other depending on what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. Is that an incident that you recall, Bess?
I have some vague memories of that, but, unfortunately, cave-ins aren't, completely unheard of in our area, especially with the age of our infrastructure and the size of it. So, but yeah, Fletcher's right. It's often hard to determine which happened first or what caused which.
Mm-hmm. And is that why you had said earlier that we need to get deeper?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's part of it. Right now, we've had eyes upstream and downstream of the collapse of our system, and I can tell you that they look great. The last time we inspected our system in this area, it also looked really, really good. So, at this point, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that more maintenance or repairs could have prevented. But once we get down there, we'll have a much better idea.
Mm-hmm. The spot that caved in, though, it showed some signs of trouble. Is that right?
No. We had, the last time we inspected it was just a few years ago, and it received the highest rating on our inspection.
Mm-hmm. So what could have happened?
Yeah, well, our engineers who've been looking into it, they describe what they've seen upstream and downstream as basically like a crushed soda can. And typically when it's an issue where there was a small defect or something, what you see instead is kind of a trail of issues instead of it all being in one area. Mm-hmm. So, again, we need to actually get eyes on the collapse itself, but from what we can tell, this was probably more just too much weight on top of the sewer, possibly because of that broken water main, but it was just a collapse right in that area because of too much weight.
Okay, and the weight could come from water too, right? Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's 30 feet underground, so you pile 30 feet of water on top of a 10 by 12 foot sewer. That's a lot of weight.
That sounds terrifying. And gross in some ways as well. You'd mentioned implications, Fletcher. What are some of those implications, especially on the practical level of dealing with the problems?
Yeah, sure. So an implication, having a naturally occurring sinkhole versus a collapse of infrastructure is, the size of the infrastructure. So, it's a 12-foot diameter sewer drain over there. So, the size of the void. So you can start planning on, engineers should start planning on how they're going to fix this void. If it's a sinkhole, it could be a 3-foot diameter, void in the subsurface, or it could be 300 feet in diameter. You don't know. And there could be more instability issues in that area too. So that's kind of really what the implications you have there is. You have a known versus the unknown.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, the infrastructure that does get built, or housing, for example, it gets built over areas where you don't know that there is some vulnerability underneath.
Correct.
Is Missouri, that is, and this region, including southern Illinois, particularly prone to sinkholes compared to other states or areas?
The St. Louis area, on both sides of the river, you have at the surface you have carbonate bedrock, which is limestone and dolomite, and those are readily dissolved, and they have karst development, so like caves, springs, sinkholes, all those kind of things. So you have that carbonate close to the surface, so it can be influenced by storm or rainwater, infiltrating into the subsurface, and that creates these sinkholes and caves and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty wide for the most part. The St. Louis region, there's even one of the limestones named the St. Louis limestone. So.
St. Louis, right. Mm-hmm. What evidence then ultimately helps determine whether a collapse is naturally occurring or related to human infrastructure, Bess?
I think that would actually be a better question for Fletcher.
I guess a easy low-hanging fruit is, if you have CAD drawings that show there's a utility in the area, that's at least helpful to be like, okay, first thought, this is not naturally occurring, but you still want to investigate with caution just in case there is something, a naturally occurring component. But when I'm out and I do sinkhole investigations, I'm looking for, does this material in the hole look like fill material? Does it look like natural, native material? Can I see bedrock, in the opening? What type of bedrock is it? If it's, limestone or dolomite, that's, karst development can happen in those. If it looks like a shale or like a sandstone, maybe that's not typically going to create caves and things like that in the subsurface. So those are just a few of the things that I look for, along with like old aerial imagery, just to see if there's like was there an old building here, or maybe like an old cistern that could be here.
We're speaking today with Fletcher Bone, geohazards geologist and an environmental program specialist with the Missouri Geological Survey, and Bess McCoy. She's the manager of public affairs at Metropolitan St. Sewer District. We're talking about the hole, not a sinkhole, but the cave-in that appeared, that came to be under the interstate, I-44, about 2 weeks ago now. Producer Maya Norfleet spoke with Jen Wade, an area engineer in the city of St. Louis with the Missouri Department of Transportation earlier this week. And Wade said that the work underway combines careful consideration and timely response.
So we're not doing any guesswork out there. Before we started this fix, we were working with MSD and the engineers that they hired to come up with an engineered plan to make sure we get the strength back around those piers and the underground column structure. Our first line of defense actually was going to take longer than we expected to get the materials in town in order to implement that. All of a sudden, it was going to be a 3 or 4 week solution. And we said, no, let's go faster than that. We've been working on Plan B over last weekend. Our engineers, MODA engineers, were helping review that back and forth with MSD and their project designers. We've got a plan that we know will work. We're pouring in a concrete-like mixture to fill the hole, and they'll be coming back in. The utilities will come back in and then do their repair work later under a more stable condition.
Is there any testing that has to be done the baby version to someone who doesn't engineer? What is that process? You have the plan, you have a mixture, then what?
Yeah. I don't actually know specifically on site what their process is, but what I can say is when we're using any kind of concrete mixture, what we would do is take samples of that mixture at the same time they're pouring the roadway. Then at certain time intervals, we can test the strength of that concrete mixture in our own machine back at the office. So once it takes so many pounds to crush that cylinder of concrete, then we know the concrete that we put on the ground also has that strength. It helps us find defects, make sure we have great products out, things that'll last for a long time. That's a standard procedure for us. I should mention real quick the construction inspectors, the work that's being done on site. It is being run by MSD, so it's their inspection team that's doing that strength testing. It's their inspection team that's sort of dotting every I and crossing every T. MODAT's just making sure that what's happening is what they said they would do, and we would get reports from their inspectors to make sure we're getting the strength they need.
And that was Jen Wade, a Missouri Department of Transportation area engineer in the city of St. Louis, in conversation earlier this week with producer Maya Norfleet. It could hit some people as like that's a lot of information, but it's kind of comforting to hear some of that. What do you make of what Jen shared, Bess?
Well, working with MODA, I think, they've been a great partner in this. The proximity to the interstate is really what makes this so complicated, because that's why we haven't been able to dig down. We need to have stability around the highway. And so, we've been working with them to come up with a fill plan. And really the reason behind that is this remains a multi-agency response, a lot of different organizations involved. But of all the agencies involved, MSD has the most experience with very complex and deep job sites. And so we're making sure the site will get stapled so that all of us can start making those repairs.
Mm-hmm. And Fletcher, you've been nodding.
Yeah.
What is it that strikes you?
It's just, I mean, I've seen a lot of good coordination. I've been in some of the meetings with the city of St. Louis, and there's a lot of good collaboration between everyone, and everyone's trying to do as best they can, as quickly as they can for such a complicated situation. It's just good to see that things are moving, like you said, Bess, way quicker than initially thought.
Mm-hmm. Bess, when it comes to sewer lines and aging sewer lines, how much do they contribute to ground collapses that may look like sinkholes to a public that is not necessarily as well aware as they might be?
They absolutely, can. Like Fletcher said, though, the area has a lot of naturally occurring sinkholes. And so we ask, if you see something like this, call us immediately. We want to come take a look and find out, is it our infrastructure? Because the sooner we know, the sooner we can fix it, the smaller the problem typically is. But, if it's something else, then we can't make those types of repairs. A repair to the sewer system wouldn't help. I will say we have been doing a lot to help prevent these, and we're looking into new technology that will make it even better for us to be able to identify these weak points earlier and line them so that this is less likely to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you can share about some of that technology?
Yeah, it's more predictive. It takes a lot of data that a single engineer might have to spend a lot of time evaluating to make those determinations. But this new technology will consolidate all of that data and point us in the areas where we should really be focusing.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned 30 feet of water earlier, Bess. What role does groundwater, Fletcher, play in both natural sinkholes and infrastructure-related collapses?
Groundwater and stormwater runoff, or any type of water, really is going to exacerbate and quicken erosion. So, even if it's a naturally occurring sinkhole or a stormwater sewer that's collapsed, if you have a rain event that's significant, it starts washing into that hole, it's just going to erode that material that more quickly and make the hole get bigger and larger and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Bess, what does filling the hole do for the present? And is it anything close to an ideal solution long term?
Well, no, filling the hole is not what we want long term. Right now, a 10-foot by 12-foot sewer is not able to take on water, which is not a big deal during dry weather. We're able to pump around it, so people still have their regular sewer service. But if we get a heavy rain, that will affect how well the sewer in this area works. And unfortunately, the most likely place for that water to go is people's basements. So we want to get this fixed as quickly as possible. But we can't do that safely if the hole isn't stabilized. Mm-hmm. Typically, if there weren't an interstate right there, we could do that right away. But with the interstate location, we have to have a stable hole, and filling it is the way we get there.
Mm-hmm. And quickly, this is a big question, but what would a more resilient underground infrastructure system look like for St. Louis over the next, let's just say 10 years?
I mean, I think resiliency starts with looking not only at the pipe, but looking at solutions beyond the pipe. So we've been doing a lot to upgrade our infrastructure, but resiliency also goes to people's homes, how homes are built, how building codes are decided. So we're looking at resiliency as a big picture thing, not just pipes underground.
Mm-hmm. And when can we expect this portion of I-44 to reopen?
You have to check with MoDOT on that. They're the ones who are ultimately going to make that okay. But we are very near completion with stabilizing the hole, and things are going well. And if they continue to go as planned, MoDOT should be able to make that decision very soon.
Mm-hmm. Bess McCoy is Manager of Public Affairs at Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, and Fletcher Bone is a geohazards geologist and an environmental program specialist with the Missouri Geological Survey.
This episode was produced by Lila Halil-Bashich. And I, Maya Norfleet.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Hi, I'm Laura Hamden, and my colleague Jessica Rogan and I are your daily hosts of the Gateway newsletter. We meet with the editors in the STLPR newsroom every weekday to bring you the top local stories of the day in a quick and easy 6-minute read by 6 a.m. In an age of overwhelm, it's a refreshing, thoughtful take on the news day, if we do say so ourselves. Fine-tune your daily news habit with the Gateway newsletter. Subscribe at stlpr.org/gateway.